in the chat in just a moment. Just tell us where you're at, where you're located. How long if you're a nurse, you should all be nurses, but if you're a nurse, how long you've been a nurse. What is your reasoning for joining today? That's a lot, isn't it? I'm doing too much. How about just tell us where you're located, how long you've been a nurse, and what's your specialty in nursing? How about that? Keep it simple. All right. So answering a couple messages, and then we are going to get started right at 10:05. This is a really informal chat at Nurses in Tech. We do all things informal. Nothing's formal, y'all. But it is going to be professional. So excited to chat with Tasaya and hear a lot about her. If you have not connected with her on LinkedIn, we are going to throw that in the chat towards the middle of this conversation, so you have the opportunity to do that. While we're chatting, if you guys have questions, you don't have to wait until the end. You can you can come off of mute and ask your questions, and we'll answer them. So this should be pretty interactive. You don't have to just listen to us lecture for the whole time. All right, I got it up, y'all. It's going. All right. Okay. Hi, Tammy. How are you? You are so busy. Oh my God. Tammy has been a nurse since 1993. Wow. I think I was like 11. That's some experience, y'all. Seriously. When I'm talking to nurses and they tell me that they've been a nurse for 20, 30 years, I'm like, wow. Okay. Just made it to 14 and I'm still over here like, dang. What do I want to be when I grow up? What do I want to do? What do I want to do with my life? It's amazing how the human brain works, y'all. I just don't understand it. Barcelona. I'm gonna have to Google where that even is. I don't even know where Barcelona is.
Come on over, Amanda. You're welcome anytime. Spain.
I have no clue where Barcelona is, you guys, at all. I hope the healthcare in Barcelona is better than the United States, being an ICU nurse. Seriously. Hope it is way better. All right, so it is 10:05. We are going to go ahead and get started. So I'm Amanda Payne. I almost said Boyd. I do know my name. I just got married March 23rd, so I have had a little issue transitioning my name that I've been saying forever. So my name is Amanda Payne. I'm the founder of Nurses in Tech. Excited for you guys to join us today. We are going to be talking with the amazing Tasaya Coleman, who is a good friend of mine, founder of an organization called Togather, which she will tell you all about. And no need to prolong. I could give her an amazing introduction, but I'm going to give her her flowers during this live session, because there are so many amazing things I can say about her. As a nurse, as a person in general, just a wonderful, all-around, amazing human being. And if you know me, you know I only hang around amazing human beings. So that's the criteria around here. Okay. So Miss Tasaya, let's get this thing rolling, ma'am. So tell us a little bit about you as a person before we get into all the professional accolades and achievements. Who is Miss Tasaya Coleman?
Yes, thank you. Well, I'm really happy to be talking with you, Amanda, and happy with everyone who joined. Really excited to meet fellow nurses. So yeah, me. Like I said, I'm in Barcelona right now. So I'm traveling with my son, Oliver. He's 10. And I really do credit him for like why I'm even in this Zoom right now, why I'm a nurse. He really changed my pregnancy with him really changed my trajectory of my career. And so him and I have been traveling since August. So he actually had leukemia, and all through treatment, kind of what got us through was this idea that we would world school as soon as he was done. And we did that. So he finished treatment not this past March, but the March before. And so August, we took off. We went to Portugal, Ireland, Scotland, Vietnam, Thailand, and now we're in Spain, which is our last stop for the next couple months until we go back home to Berkeley, California. I was born and raised in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, outside of Boston. And yeah, strong Portuguese family there. And yeah, that's a bit about me. And I will say actually another thing about me, which you'll hear me talk about if you spend time with me, is I love a good cup of tea and I love binge watching some television. So if I'm not like working or traveling, I will be drinking tea and watching Netflix is where you can find me.
All right. What's your favorite show on Netflix right now, y'all? Right now, Josiah.
Oh, that's like a tough question. I'm actually not watching anything on Netflix. I'm watching like a throwback show right now that's like a comfort show, which is not going to sound like a comfort show, but Midsummer Murders. It's a
That
like
definitely does not
old,
sound like a
no,
comfort.
but it's like an old school British like Murder She Wrote type of like very like quaint villages, and like a murder happens and lots of like cheesy music. And so I've been watching a lot of that.
Yeah. 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 Anybody have questions for Tasaya before I start asking them? Because she always glosses over the amazing things, her amazing son that she's just traveling the world with. That just,
Oh, I
go
don't
ahead.
have questions, but thank you for sharing that, Josiah. That was powerful to put life into perspective after going through something like that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, so he was 6 when he was diagnosed. And it was one of those situations too where, like as a nurse, I feel like it's almost like when your kid or yourself like gets sick, you're like, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. And so he had been complaining of his leg hurting. And I was like, you're fine. Like, what do you mean? Like, you're just doing gymnastics. Like, that's why your leg hurts. And then, it was like kept hurting, and then eventually brought him in to be seen. And it was obviously a really devastating and it like kind of just life-changing news. And so we found a lot of ways. He's super funny, and so we really did kind of, it sounds like weird, but like laughed our way through treatment. Like he had so many jokes. He would like ride on the IV pole down the hallway and drive his nurses crazy, and like they'd be chasing after him. So definitely dreaming and thinking about this trip and planning this trip was a coping skill for us.
Yeah. How is Oliver doing now? What's he up to these days?
So I think like this moment, actually, I think he is joining his own Zoom. He is doing this, it's called Out School, and he's doing this Dungeons and Dragons session. He's learning how to DM. And so that's like he's very into that right now. So he loves like fantasy. He loves reading. He's really like especially those like Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief books? Like he
Yep.
loves that author's whole stuff. So he's reading, he's Dungeons and Dragoning, he loves playing football, being goalie, super, super healthy right now. And that's like all we can really, really ask for. So that's great.
Out School is amazing. I homeschooled my kids for 7.5 years. I don't know. I always stumble upon that piece of information
Yeah,
in
I
a
didn't know
conversation.
that.
Yeah, I did. I homeschooled all 5 of my children. This actually, I got to share this yesterday with actually patients. Another one of our nurses in tech, amazing human beings. But I have 2 children that have learning disabilities. I have a son that was born with a rare form of cerebral palsy. So he had a lot of learning and just overall health challenges in the beginning of his life. He is in college now. and is 21 and will be graduating actually next year. So he just finished his junior year. I said all that to say, as we have these conversations, when people ask us to tell them about us, we kind of leave out some really like pertinent, life-changing things about who we are, outside of just being a nurse. And I know it can be a challenge. This is something we've been working on with you when we say, tell us about yourself. And you just go straight to the professional things, because that's what we've been told that people want to hear, right? Like, people don't want to hear about the things that we do in our real lives that really also fuel the amazing professional things that we do. And so I am very guilty of that myself. And that is why I wanted to start this conversation asking about all the things you do that make you Tasaya, right? So if we understand what things fuel you and make you Tasaya, then we will understand everything you're going to tell us about this amazing company called Togather, not a project, a company.
Project company. Yeah. And I mean, even just what you said there about the pieces of us, I really do feel like it's reciprocal. It's like who we are personally fuels the work that we do. The work we do, it feeds into like who we are personally and impacts us. And so like at Together, there's a thing we say about like the whole you is welcome here. And it is true. Like, yes, like we're focused on like healthcare professionals, but like we are whole people, or like whole human beings with favorite drinks and people and activities and hard things, happy things.
Yeah. So tell us about Together. Tell us, well, first tell us why Together, and then you kind of hinted on it, and then just tell us what's going on over at Together.
Yeah, for sure. So Together really is, I think of there being a couple like iterations almost of Together before it was Together, which is back when I was going to NP school. So like I said, I really pivoted in undergrad. I was going to be a clinical psychologist. I wanted to write research and books, like textbooks is what I wanted to do, which is so different than who I am now. But that's what I was on the way with. Then I got pregnant with Oliver, and I just experienced the shock that is our like maternal health care system in the US. It is pretty, I did a webinar yesterday actually on maternal mental health. And I was saying like our maternal health care system is probably one of the biggest shames we should have as a country. And so, you know, my experience with that led me to become a lactation counselor and a doula first, and really go into the community system. And it was working at a home for women who had substance use disorder or mental health issues, who were there parenting their children or were pregnant. Working there, I met a nurse, and I really never thought about nursing. I'm super terrified of needles. So I was like, I can never be a nurse. Like, that's not for me. Like, medicine is not for me. And I met her and I just saw the way she practiced. And I was like, wow, I think there's like more to this. Let me research it a bit. And I decided to go full in. And so I went, applied. I ended up going to MGH in Boston. And, you know, that was a really, really hard experience. I know everyone knows nursing school is hard. I really struggled as a Black woman in a predominantly white institution. I really struggled as a mom with a toddler. I just all around like really, really was struggling with my mental health. And after the first semester of an NP school, I did an accelerated combined program. After the first semester, I was already burnt out. And I was like, how is this a thing? How am I supposed to then go practice and still have years left of doing this? And, you know, so with that experience, I ended up founding a organization at MGH, the Students for Racial Justice in Healthcare. And that group was interdisciplinary. You know, MGH, we had lots of different types of providers that were, or baby providers, student providers. And, you know, we literally did everything from like eating pizza together and like crying over what was happening to like helping each other study to, we ended up forming a whole department at IHP and and getting a full-time hire for DEI. And, we would do protests and vigils and support each other and go out in the community and volunteer. And we just did like such a wide array of things that really fueled my ability to get through nursing school. And that I think that is like version one of Together was that group, because I understood that collective care and showing up for each other and showing up for all of you, like the good stuff, the bad stuff, the personal stuff, the professional stuff, really does mean you can have a way bigger impact on the world, and your reach can go way further. So yeah, so that is, I mean, I can talk all about those days. And actually a couple of the founding members are healthcare providers who I met during Students for Racial Justice in Healthcare, and now they're in Together helping me build it. And it's just really incredible, full circle. But yeah, that's the why behind Together.
Yeah. So I'm gonna pause right there just in case there's comments, questions from the audience. Tammy Jones says, yeah, the maternal space it's so broken. That's a whole nother live conversation there.
Many lives.
I mean, it's broken, period. Michael is a man nurse, but he actually operates in that maternal space and could also share, I'm sure, many of experiences. He says, I get very annoyed when people start saying, well, you have a healthy baby, so that's all that matters. Oh, that's crazy. Yeah.
I hear it all the time. My comment for Tisaya is just that I applaud you for all of this and for starting and focusing on the support for healthcare providers. Nobody's going to help nurses until we start to help ourselves.
Yeah.
And that recognition and saying it out loud and working to do that is amazing, because so few people actually will step out of just saying someone should do it and actually try.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. No, thank you for that. It's hard to do, it's hard to create, as you know, I know there's other nursepreneurs on this call. It's definitely hard work, but it is a lot easier because I'm like stunned every day, every new conversation I have with a provider. It's just, there's so much similarities in our stories of what we're experiencing, but also such variety and diversity in our backgrounds and in our interests. And I'm just, I know Rochelle here is raising her hand, and she's a perfect example of someone I had a conversation with who is just incredible. And I'm so lucky to get to meet all of these incredible providers all the time building this.
Yeah. Rochelle.
Well, Tisha, I know. Thank you for that segue. I am off camera because I was crying through all of this because I remember our very in-depth conversation when I showed you my tool and how I use it. And I know we both shed tears in that space. I think your message, what you've done, goes to the heart of my post about when you're called to action. Do you say yes? How can you say no? And so you were one of those people, just like Mike, just like Amanda, just like Bridget, just like Patience, just like Amy, just like all of us here, where we are called to do something. And how can we say no? We just cannot. We know it's broken, so we are going to use our issues for good, to make it better for that person coming back. I mean, definitely for us in the interim, you're doing it a bit selfishly, and that's okay. But also where you can do good for somebody else coming behind you. That's the whole point and premise of this. When you are called to action, do you say no? What do you do? What is your choice? And so I'm so thankful that you said yes. You are a ray of sunshine and light. You've enlightened me on some of the things that I'm doing. People call me badass. I'm not even close to your shade. So amen. Thank you very much. I'm staying off camera today.
Wow. No, that's incredible. I really, that was an incredible compliment.
So I have a question for you, Tisaya. Let's
Mhm.
talk. So me and Tasaya, actually, I talk to a lot of people all the time. I was going to say me and Tasaya talk a lot, but I think I talk to quite a few of you guys a lot. But we have a common, let's say, a common joy, but also a common challenge, and that is building a community for healthcare professionals. Your community is open to other professionals outside of nursing, where Nurses in Tech is tailored specifically towards nursing. So what are some of your challenges? Well, before I ask you that question, why a community? Why a community? I know why, but I want everybody else to hear why. From in your mind, why build a community? Why is a community needed in this space to solve the issues that you've identified, need to be solved?
Yeah. I mean, I think really going back to my experience in grad school and that community, and honestly, I think what sometimes people ask me is like, why a virtual community? And the answer to that is actually my son's diagnosis. It was during COVID, and so we were all separated,
Yeah.
right? Like even on the cancer pediatric floor, we would have to book out the playroom for the whole day. Only one kid could be there at a time. And so it was a very isolating experience. And I joined this free Facebook group, just like a Facebook group run by another parent who had experienced this like 20 years prior, where the landscape of leukemia looked quite different. And, going into that virtual community every day, reading the posts, linking out to the resources they would post in there, just being able to kind of peruse in my own time and space, this community chock full of so many resources. Because I think that's what like people sometimes don't understand about like community is also resources. Community is also knowledge sharing. Community is also education. It's all of these pieces that just come together in a community format. And because we're doing it in a community format, it's fun. Like it doesn't feel so like you're just sitting down and you're reading a book, or you're just like listening to a lecture. It's like, no, you're communicating, you're reading, you're engaging, you're learning organically. And so I think yeah, that's my why for community.
Yeah. I know still even now when I have conversations with nurses that are interested in Nurses in Tech, or even partners that are interested in what we're doing, they hear it and it's like, they're all like, yeah, this is a need. Like, it's wonderful. There needs to be a space, specifically for nurses. And then they say, but what are the benefits again? Right? And I'm like, you don't get it, do you? You really don't get it. Like you get, like, it's like, and so we spend some time, and I know I've shared with you, one of my priority tasks right now is figuring out how to quantify the impact of human interaction, right? Like how to actually quantify in numbers what's happening inside of the Nurses in Tech community as it relates to the human interaction, right? It's like as human beings, we know a space is needed for us to be safe. It's a space needed for us to communicate with other like-minded individuals, or individuals that have walked the path that we're walking, or they have experiences, and for us to be able to share those experiences, have those conversations, and it be safe and feel like we're actually understood, like, right? Where people can show up and be who they are, not be ashamed, not have to feel like, they're going to be judged or whatever. And so we know that is a need, and we all, I think, desire it and want it. But it's something about our human brains that we just go back to, like, okay, how do I quantify this? We either got to quantify it in money, we either got to quantify it in skill, we got to find some tangible, touchable way. Like the actual human connection and emotional connection doesn't matter. Like it's like we know it matters, right? But how do we? So as you're building your community, what are some of the things that you are finding or maybe building in to make sure that part of the community remains, as you guys grow, as you scale and be like, just grow massively, right? Because the need is massive. How are you keeping the human connection top of mind?
Yeah, so I think it's kind of like two approaches. So one is saying like, okay, that is kind of that is not just kind of like human nature, it's really human nature, like under capitalism, right? Like we all are needing to make money, we're all needing to survive in this world that can be kind of cutthroat. And so like, how do we justify it to ourselves, to society, that we are taking time out to do something? And so in that regard, I have tried to build in ways to do that. So for instance, I focus really heavily on making Togather an accredited organization. So right now we're accredited only for nurses, but we'll expand to other specialties. But that accreditation means then the anything you're learning on the Together platform, especially our courses, then allow you to submit for CE credits and to justify it in that tangible way, right? But then I almost say like, okay, like justify it to your boss or to yourself or to your licensure with the CEs, but stay for the community, because that's what people are actually staying for. You can get your CEs anywhere, right? But like you're staying for the community. And so not losing sight of that. And so really where all of my strategy energy goes, like love, all of that goes is into the community programming.
Yeah.
So thinking about the live events, making sure people have many modes of interaction, whether you want to interact via like voice memos or texting, like texting on the platform, or you want to jump in a live event, or even there's a really nice easy way for folks who opt in, you can put your location. And so then people can connect with each other via location and get together in person. So just providing many, many avenues of that human connection, but recognizing that we live in the society we live in and people feel like they need to justify to themselves, even though, like you said, we know, because I do that to myself too. Even with building a business, I'll be like, oh no, I can't take the time to meditate, or I can't take the time to go for the walk, or to like take the time away. But it's like, I know that I'm less productive if I don't. Like, I know that I am like less useful and less happy and less whole if I don't take that time. And so I think slowly people are starting to understand that as like stigmatization around mental health is reduced. But I think in the interim, trying to make sure people, you have your list. Here's your list of things that you can tangibly take away. But actually, I know, and we both know that you're going to be staying for the community.
Yeah. Yep. 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 So tell us all the great things that are coming up. What's next? What is coming up in the next couple months, in the next 6 months, next year, at Together?
Yeah, so in a very, very exciting month, actually. So we have been slowly onboarding the founding members team, which is about 13 founding members who have been helping to build out the platform, the programming, all the things I just mentioned. And so now that they're all there and are ready, today actually launching what I'm calling the First 100 initiative, but really looking for those first 25 members, the first cohort that will be onboarded to the platform for May. And so we'll slowly, and every single one of those first 100 members, I'm personally meeting with, chatting with, because like I said, like a community is made up of people. And so we need to make sure we have people who are dedicated and committed to that type of environment, the environment of you take, you give, you take, you get, like of this reciprocal relationship and supporting of each other. So yeah, really excited to kick off that, where we actually get to have like members utilizing the platform and telling us what they want and need. And we already have some folks signed up, but there's definitely more spots available. And every single conversation I've had so far has been so impactful. Like I was saying, every provider I get to speak to, I learn something new. And that's literally the point of Together. So I'm excited to keep that momentum going.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna stop right there and open it up for some questions if you guys have questions. Don't be shy. All right. What's the number one challenge right now?
Number one challenge, I think, is prioritization. Like, I want to do everything. I love everything. Like, I'm so excited. The founding members, like I mentioned, are truly incredible people. You'll be able to, I'll put the link in a bit, but like you'll be able to go see who the founding members are and their backgrounds and just how varied they are. But we have so many different live events, and it's easy to just be like, let's do all of them. But deciding like, how do we space it out? How do we stack it and unveil it so that it feels not overwhelming for people too, right? Because that also can happen. You can get like overload of like so many fun, exciting things. And you don't want that either. So I think prioritization, which I'm sure I'm not alone as a business owner figuring that out.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, being a founder, being an entrepreneur, a founder of any organization, especially in healthcare, especially in technology, but definitely in healthcare and technology, can be challenging. I always say, and I think I got this from somebody, but I don't know. But you have to be a certain level of crazy to start a business. Like there has to be a certain level of not normal in order for you to do that because you just do things totally different and you've been taught to do that to do things. And so going to being in healthcare, going to nursing school, we're taught about all of the scientific things that we need to know about taking care of people and saving lives, right? And that's really important, right? But we're also taught how to like basically submit to the system, right? And how the system works. And we kind of learn how to just do what we are, supposed to do. Nobody teaches. And in business, it's the total opposite, right? There are some tried and true, I guess, things out there that people teach you and can teach you about business that have worked. But in today's world, 2024, thinking outside the box and doing things in a different way just has to be in order for you to succeed. Like things are changing all the time. COVID taught us that, right? And then since COVID has, come and gone, and we swore we were going to keep doing things better, right? We were focused on, better ways to work. We were focused on people's mental health. We were focused on getting healthy and staying healthy, right? We were focused on helping people that were in marginalized communities to get jobs, and we wanted everybody to have access to a job in technology. We wanted them to have access to free, if not low cost, but free training, right? And then now we're just a few years, not even a few years, but a couple years from COVID, and we have kind of gone back to doing the same thing, right? Not exactly the same, but we do see a lot of the original pieces of our society going back to exactly the way they were. I said that to say, being a new founder in 2024, what mindset do you think a nurse needs to have in order to be successful right now?
Yeah. So if I could just like hop up on my soapbox for a second. I actually think that we need to, in a lot of ways, be taking a page out of the roots of nursing and like the history of nursing. And actually what attracted me to nursing was the firm planting in public health and in dissent. Like nursing was this like kind of radical thing where like nurses were not welcome at first, and Black nurses and nurses of color were really not welcome. And so the idea that we have to push against a system that doesn't really want us there or doesn't value us is not new for nursing. And so I think that understanding that, and because like what you were saying, I think there has been in modern days this kind of like brainwashing almost that the nurse should be like this like submissive person to the doctor, and like we're just there to like do what we like, check the boxes and and it's like that's not actually what nursing started as. Like that's not nurses' roots. And so trying to get back, was coming from an activist, but getting back to those activist roots of like, no, like we understood as nurses that there are things that are not working and that are broken. And so we are there to fix them and to change things. And to really, I hope that feeling and understanding really catches fire again. And I see it catching fire among nurses. I think that's why there's a huge push of nurse entrepreneurs. I think there's just amazing, innovative stuff coming out of nursing every day I see. And so I think that nurses like, and I think I've said this in like a LinkedIn post, I truly think that nurses are like perfectly positioned in healthcare. Like, yes, I think it takes a whole team. I think it needs to be collaborative. That's why I created Togather, to be collaborative. But I do think that there is a special position of nurses to be the change makers and to really be able to see personally what the harms of the healthcare system we have been, and what are the possible, like, what are the growth areas? What are the changes that we can have to set things right and to change things for the better? So yeah, I don't even remember what the original question was, but that's my soapbox about nursing and how we can really like, yeah, I mean, I saw that too in health tech. Like I glossed over that part of my background, but I did build out virtual care teams throughout the pandemic for a femtech company. And I consistently, I saw so many of the nurses, because I had teams of doctors and nurses and lots of different people, and everyone was so incredible. And it was when I saw the voices of nurses being respected and listened to that things really did shift in better ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Getting lots of great energy over there on this conversation. You know, Florence Nightingale, y'all, she was a rebel. Like, seriously. Like, usually when you see people reference her, they reference her in such this, you know, like nice and timid, wise way. But if you really go back and pay attention and look into what she actually did, she was a rebel. Like, she was not sitting waiting for permission from people. Like, she's like, this stuff needs to be done, and I'm gonna create a way to do it. I'm just gonna do it, right? There also weren't, like, I think one of the biggest issues, so yay to everything you said. You know how I feel about that. My favorite saying is nurses are badass, period. Right? Like, my philosophy on nurses in tech. We only take nurses. We will always only take nurses. And I know that sounds like we're not inclusive. We're not. We want nurses. Right? And what's wrong with that? That's nothing wrong with that. Amanda's vision, and Amanda, God gave Amanda a community for nurses. Okay. I cannot apologize for that. I don't know what to say to people. I'm so serious about it. It's for nurses, right?
Well,
And
it's
there's
a
nothing wrong
both.
with
There's nothing wrong with it. And it's a both and, right? It's like, I think we need communities like Nurses in Tech that are just for nurses. And there's many other specialized professional organizations, right? For different professions. And we also need to gather where we're having time to come together and connect. And I feel the same way, honestly, about of racial justice activism. Like, we need to have affinity spaces where I, as a Black person, can be seen by other Black people and they can affirm my experiences and understand. But we also need, and we will not succeed without interracial spaces where we're all talking to each other and understanding our points of views and understanding what needs to change and having allyship and accomplices and all of those things. So I think it's a both and situation with any change that needs to happen. People need safe spaces where they feel seen and fellow identities, and they need expansive spaces where we're collaborating and we're breaking down silos.
Yeah. And by no means do I nurses are wonderful people. And I think nurses in tech, why I push this, because I've been approached and I have had conversations about why don't I open the community to others? And it's not that I don't working like, the community is a community for nurses, right? And so where I was going with this was, I feel like that's why it's so important, because in Nurses in Tech, I think one of the things I like to really push is us owning who we are, and this practice of us actually searching inside of ourselves to find like this inner voice that we're not using. And it's through the collective support of other nurses that say, no, what you're saying is valid. Your idea is valid. It's needed. And not only that, I don't know how we're going to get there, but I'm willing to help you. I'm willing to come alongside you in whatever way that I can. And not just once it's successful and everybody's like pushing it. It's like, no, I'm going to support you now while you're in the beginning stages, so that you don't feel like you're alone, right? Because one of the things that I've learned from nurses in tech, I know we've talked about this, is the need for support, all like consistent support, like meeting me where I am. Like maybe when I'm doing good, my support need might be different, but even when I'm going through a challenging season, then my support, what I need, is different. And then even maybe when I just am downright not at my best, I still need a certain level of support, right? So like I feel like in nurses in tech, one of the things that is being cultivated is this idea that people will support you no matter where you are in your personal or professional journey. And I just feel like a group of people holding you up is so needed, so that nurses can go through like the ups, the downs, celebrate the wins, but also acknowledge the losses and have people there that are willing to um, take that ride, take that journey, with you. And I think everybody has, a different gift and a different skill that can really be utilized. Like you just never know exactly all of what you need in this life, right? Especially in nursing, right? But creating spaces where we are able to support one another and we're able to realize our greatness is so important, right? And I just wonder, like, if we had more of these spaces and if these spaces were built into like nursing school, right? Right? If we had spaces where before you even became a nurse, right, there was this cultivation of community and this idea of coming together around coming together as a collective around common topics to create innovative ideas. If that was taught early, right, and then it was even embedded possibly within nurse hospitals, clinics, right, and we just were able to create this concept of community and its need, would the profession be better? Would we have more nurses stand up and say, hey, that's not the way we should do that, right? Would we have more nurses challenging the different institutional blockers that are in our healthcare system that continue to make healthcare unsafe for a lot of us, right? Healthcare access, right? Healthcare education. If we had these spaces where nurses were together and we were able to support each other, how do you think that would change? Not just healthcare, it would change our profession, but also change healthcare.
Yeah. I mean, I've been very excited by the couple organizations that have reached out, interested potentially in Togather for their clinicians, for their providers, because I think that shows what you're talking about. It's forward thinking. Because if you're a clinic or a medical school or a nursing school or whatever who invests in a membership like Nurses in Tech, like Togather, like the other professional orgs that are specialized and focused, you're really investing in the quick and like impactful upward mobility of your student, of your employee, whatever. Like you're investing in their mental health, you're investing in their professional development, you're investing in all of these things for not that big of a cost. And they get this huge community where it's like, how quickly, a good example of this, because I felt this a lot in Nurses in Tech already before you've, like we're obviously a small community still, but I've very much felt this, where yesterday, new business owner trying to figure out my stuff, figure out how to do everything. And I just asked in the Slack around like lawyery questions, like how to set up something, if anyone had a recommendation for a lawyer. And a fellow nurse who is further along in her career in that way just jumped right in and was like, hey, do you want to have a phone call? Like, what's your number? Send my number to her. Like, we're set up now to talk on the phone. She's like, before you like go pay for a lawyer, let me just see what questions I can answer for you. And that I'm going to and she's already answered some of my questions. So I'm going to so much quicker and cheaper figure out how to get to where I want to go because I have this community, and I hope to do the same for other people in the community. And so it's just that's huge. That's so huge.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what's funny is I then later had another conversation with one of our members around the same question. We were scheduled for our one-on-one, and she said, "Hey, how do you feel about NDAs?" And I was like, I won't tell you guys what I told her, okay? But I did refer her to probably the same lawyer that I'm assuming you talked to Katie.
Yeah.
Is that who helped you? It was Katie. Okay, yeah. So Katie is awesome, but there is a lawyer connect that we have been using to refer our members to. And he came through Katie, but Katie is amazing. But and I'm always saying this, I don't think the information that a lot of us usually need should be more accessible, right? And the more that nurses own, so I'm always talking about this ownership piece, nurses owning something, right? It may not solve other problems, but if a nurse can take ownership of an idea, a service, or a business, number one, is going to give them confidence because they become the leader and the decision maker around something, right? And that alone changes the way you look at everything, right? And then also by owning something, nurses become more confident, which means we speak up more, right? We become confident in what it is that we stand for. And so I think the access to entrepreneurship should be so much more accessible without having to pay for, an incubator, or without having to pay for another course, or without having to pay for another coach. I'm not saying that those things aren't helpful, but they're not. Nurses are pretty smart people, right? We go through some challenges at the very beginning through our whole, like, if you can make it through nursing school, forget the NCLEX, right? First, you got to make it through nursing school. I have 2 kids in college, right? They just finished yesterday, and I'm like, I know you guys got all A's, right? My daughter said, "Mama, C's get degrees." I said, "What?" She said, "C's get degrees," meaning as long as she got a C, she can get her degree. Now, I was kind of mad because I was like, I didn't allow you to get C's in school when you were in, but we couldn't get C's. I couldn't get a C in nursing school. Like, who gets C's in nursing school? Maybe that was just my school, but we couldn't get C's. Okay. You just couldn't do it. Right. Then if you pass the NCLEX, that's a whole nother lifetime right there, trying to understand how to pass the test. Okay. And passing the test. And now I got to make it to a job, and now I got to do the job, and I got to save people's lives. I got to fix, like, we are amazing at navigating chaos, complex situations, complex people, multiple chaoses at one time, right? So why is it that we should go through all of these hula hoops to understand how to navigate the world of business, right? Now, I'm not saying that there are not things I'm not saying there aren't things that we don't need to know. There are, but I just wish there were simpler places. Like, a lot of the stuff that I learned about tech and even about business, I learned in groups, in spaces of spending money on coaches, spending money on training. Like, I spent over another $90,000 outside of nursing school to be trained in tech because I thought that's what I needed to do to change careers. I spent in the last 10 years and upwards of a good $75,000 on coaches. Do you know how much of the stuff I learned from them coaches that I actually use in nurses and tech? Zero. As a matter of fact, now I can look back and say, only thing you really taught me is what not to do, what I don't want to do. I don't want to do that, right? And so I guess for me, and I know we have 10 minutes, I'm going to open it up to questions. I hope that we, Nurses in Tech and Togather, will continue to learn and grow and cultivate new opportunities for nurses and healthcare professionals that really pave this way to getting nurses, but also, our allies, in a space of being able to make change that really impacts the way we deliver healthcare so that our patients have better outcomes. And so I am excited, and I am just so honored to even know you and to have connected with you, and to be watching you, supporting you in any and all the ways that I can to build together. And it's such a reciprocal relationship, not just in business, but also in personally. The time that we share, the conversations that we have, how you let me be the mentor, and then sometimes I'm like, hey, I got a question for you. Answer, and you're just like, yeah, Amanda, I think that sounds great. And I'm like, I just love how we have each other, and are really able to go through this, this part of building something amazing together. And building community is not easy, y'all. It's not. It looks easy. It looks fun. It is, but it is a challenge to understand how to build something that can be viable many years from now, but it's needed and it's not been done. And so you don't have a roadmap, and you're trying to build it, and you also want to create the roadmap for others while you're doing it.
Yeah. There was a phrase that they would say a lot in the tech company I worked at right before building Togather that I honestly hated, but now I like kind of get it. The like building the plane while we're flying it phrase that all the time, all hands, we're building the plane while we're flying, we're building. And I was like, okay, like I get it, but like maybe we could like park the plane for a second. And then now that I'm doing it, I'm like, damn, this plane does not park. Like, you just have to keep flying the plane. Like, and I just, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, but that's also what I mean, that right there is exactly what I'm talking about when I say nurses have to own something, because when you're in something that somebody else, you're just kind of like, why are we doing this like this? But now you got together and you're like, man, listen, this plane got to fly and we got to build it. We can't park the plane and change the tire. The plane has to keep flying upward, and we'll change the tire in the air.
And we're going to figure it out. And honestly, a huge part of that is having good people around you, And so it's interesting with building community. You need community to build community. And so it's just this process. And yeah, I mean, definitely not easy. But I will say that what I do like, having my roots in community activism, what I do like about the building a community business model is that I do think, to your point about coaches and money and prices and all of that, building community is a lot of bang for your buck. So like when you join a community, like I paid to enter nurses in tech, right? When I paid that fee, the fee I paid was like pennies compared to what I would have paid to a coach, but I get all of these different people to support me. And that is like really the collective care model. It would be amazing if we could do collective care completely free. When we stop living under capitalism, then great. But insofar as we live under capitalism, I always say it Togather. I say that I'm building a company with activist principles under capitalist rules. And that's just it. And so that's what we're doing. And we're going to make it as accessible as possible. But that's the reality of our lives. And so how do we be, as nurses, like how do we be smart business owners? How do we also be smart consumers? Because I think there is a lot of preying on nurses around the coaching model, around all of those things, because we are in a lot of ways a vulnerable population, because we already are being so taken advantage of in the healthcare system. So just that's again my soapbox about pricing model.
I literally know business coaches that teach people, go after the professionals that have money. Nurses make money. So not only are we vulnerable, but we make good money. So we're definitely prey.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Yeah. So last question. How can we support you? How can we support you in what you're doing?
Yes. I will answer that also, Tammy. Exactly. We are really desperate for change, and we are like in our hearts, we really want positive change for our patients and ourselves. And that definitely leads to vulnerability. As far as what you can do.
Tammy, that sounds like a live. I think that's a live.
Yes, it does.
That's live. We can set that up to talk about the vulnerable hearts of nurses. I like that.
There's your next slide right there. So first thing that folks can do is just to follow me on LinkedIn. I talk about these things a lot and I would love to connect with you. Feel free to send me a message, follow along with how I'm building Togather. And then, like I mentioned, we're launching today the First 100 initiative, and really looking to get folks who care about this mission and are passionate about it in the door. And so I'll put the link here in the chat, but check it out. Share with another provider. That's huge right now, is just sharing with folks who you think would be a good fit or be interested.
Yep. All right. Any questions before we go? The link is in the chat.
And I can put my LinkedIn link too. Let me just grab that.
All right. Well, I want to thank Tasaya for taking this time to chat with us. We will be chatting with Tasaya again, because this is just like the surface level of who she is and all of the knowledge that she has. We'll have to do a whole nother live to talk about all of the letters behind her name and what they all mean.
I'm so sick of those letters, Amanda. They make everything I write just like, and I'm just, yeah, but we can.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm gonna ask her one day to explain to me what they all mean. Okay. Because I have no clue. Actually, one day we were talking and I started Googling your different letters, and then I got off task, so I never finished it. But but no, Tasaya is full of professional and personal experiences as well as knowledge, and I'm just happy to know her. Please follow her on LinkedIn. Please share about Togather. I think what's the motto? Sharing is caring. And you just never know who could benefit from a connection like Tasaya or her community, her business Togather. So please share. If nobody has any questions, you sure you don't have any last minute questions? Anybody at all for Tasaya?
Okay. And Letizia, am I saying your name right? Okay. I really am in Barcelona, so feel free to get in touch if you want to get together for tea or something.
Look at that.
Nice cup of tea. So
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can message you and we can organize something. I'll love that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, I can't be in Barcelona for tea, but you guys are more than welcome to FaceTime me, and I will drink some tea while you guys are in Barcelona, apparently, which is
why not?
And now I'm kind of jealous.
Yeah, the place where tea can turn into wine and tapas and a bunch of other amazing things.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, you guys have a great day. Thank you guys for joining. I look forward to chatting with you guys on LinkedIn and staying connected. Tasaya, thank you.
Thank you, Amanda.
All right. You guys have a good day.